I don't really have an interesting intro to this video like I did for the last one. I'm going to be going over each individual step of the YAO method and talking about how to improve at it, and I'm going to be talking about 2 different time barriers and how to break them. I'm going to be talking about sub 1 minute, which is the equivalent of sub 20 on 3x3, and I'm going to be talking about sub 40, which is the equivalent of sub 10. So to start off, I'm just going to be telling you the basic steps. There's first 2 centers, first 3 edges, so you solve the 3 cross edges. Last 4 centers, preserving your 3 cross edges. And then, of course, there's a kind of sub-step here where you solve the last cross edge, and then you've got last 8 edges. So in order to average under a minute on 4x4, you're probably going to want to have a sub 40 YAO reduction, that is to say reduction plus cross. And so the basic breakdowns for this are going to be 5-second first 2 centers, 10-second first 3 edges, 8-second last 4 centers, 4-second last cross edge, and then 10-second last 8 edges. And so those are the basic breakdowns. That's what I think your breakdown should generally be, although I'm sure there will be some discussion among that. And then for sub 40 solves, you're going to have a sub 25 reduction, and so the breakdowns are going to be 3-second first 2 centers, 6-second first 3 cross edges, 5-second last 4 centers, 3-second last cross edge, or you'd probably be able to do it in 1 or 2, but 3 seconds give you some leeway for bad cases, and then 6-second last 8 edges. A lot of these, for people who are slower, may sound really daunting, like 6-second last 8 edges may sound insane, but it's actually not that hard at all, because, for example, with the last 8 edges, you can look ahead like crazy. So now I'm going to be going over each of the individual steps and how to improve at them, in my opinion. First 2 centers. The first thing that you really need to do is that you need to abuse your inspection time. You have a full 15 seconds to inspect. So many people only take 2 or 3 of these seconds. I suffer from this as well. If you use your whole 15 seconds of inspection time, you could probably plan this whole first step in your inspection time itself. But a more reachable goal would probably be to plan at least your full center and then probably another half of that center. And so using your inspection is a really, really key part to making your first 2 centers faster. Another big thing is that because you've got all of this inspection time to plan out your first 2 centers, you can really afford to take a lot of time and be really, really efficient. I'm not really going to give you any examples of this because this is more of a talking video like my last one was, but really, planning out your first 2 centers and making them as efficient as possible is really, really going to help you out. 3 seconds, 4 seconds is really not that hard to achieve with this. Now, first 3 cross edges. This is probably the only part in a 4x4 solve where I'd really actually recommend that you turn really slowly. Because, A, you have to look everywhere throughout the cube because you don't have any edges solved, whereas you don't have to do that, for example, in last 8 edges. And the other thing is that you can be really, really efficient here. There's so many different ways to solve each cross edge, some of them only 2 or 3 moves. And so if you turn really slow here and you really get used to looking ahead like crazy during this step, then you can actually solve things really efficiently and with so few moves that you'll actually be going faster than you would if you were inefficient in turning quickly. So the main thing that I do here in first 3 edges is that you really want to turn slowly and try to be really, really efficient in this step because you really can be extremely efficient. So in my next video, I'm going to be talking about a technique that I used called half centers. Basically, I solve half centers instead of solving the centers one by one like most people do. And what this allows me to do is turn a lot faster during my last 4 centers, but it also allows me to look ahead a lot more because there's a lot less places to look. But basically what you're going to want to do here is just turn really, really fast. Turning slowly in this step really isn't going to help you out because turning slowly isn't really going to help your look ahead that much, and it's just going to cause you to pause an equal amount while turning slower. My point is that you can really turn incredibly fast during the last 4 centers, and the look ahead is really easy, so there's really no reason to slow down. There's 2 ways to do this. There's the one where you put one of them in the right slice, and you slice, put it in, slice back, and then the other way you can do it is by slicing, create a pair, and then bringing it out, and then slice back, and then insert. Both of these ways are pretty effective. It just really depends on the case, so you're going to want to incorporate both of them into your solves. So I guess the main tip that I could give here would be incorporate both kinds of techniques here, because it aids you in efficiency and makes you faster if you can do both of them really effectively. And the other thing is that you should do it with your cross, white for me, on the left. It may be harder at first, but it allows better finger tricks for most cases. Obviously, like when you have a pair that's already made, it's easier to just insert like that than it is to rotate and then, or whatever this is, I don't even know. So obviously, my point is that, I mean, obviously for some cases it's easier to do with your cross on bottom, for example when you have the pair that's already formed, but in general you should do it with the cross on left. It may seem harder to you, but it allows for better finger tricks, and better look ahead generally. Last 8 edges. This is where, as I said in my last video, Yao really shines. You don't have to look at the bottom, and so look ahead becomes really, really easy. So don't slow turn. You can turn incredibly quickly here, so do so. On my channel at some point, maybe it's already up, this is pre-recorded, I'm going to have a video talking about how to deal with bad cases, because there are quite a few bad cases, but generally you'll get neutral cases, normal cases, or you'll get lucky a lot, which is another advantage to these last 8 edges. So turn really quickly no matter what, abuse your really lucky cases, and deal with bad cases using tips and tricks. Don't turn slowly, it's not going to help you. Last 8 edges is really where Yao shines. So if there was one tip that I had to give you that would help you on 4x4, it would be use Yao to your advantage. In parts where look ahead is really difficult in Yao, probably more difficult than reduction, for example your first 3 cross edges, you should slow down and work on efficiency. In parts where Yao is really awesome, like the last 8 edges, you can abuse it, turn really quickly. Use Yao to your advantage. Thanks for watching, guys.